you've initiated movement with your squad, then you tell your platoon leader again, send him a contact report or a SALTA. A SALTA is just size of the enemy force, the activity of the enemy force, location of the enemy force, what time is usually now, and activity of the friendly of your friendly force. So what are you doing? So that could be one times enemy squad in base of fire at grid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm falling back into base of fire position. That's a simple SALTA, and it doesn't have to take long. And it's just as soon as you start your teams moving and have the teams move, coordinate their movement, then you can send a SALTA to the PL. Then as the situation keeps developing, the team leaders should keep getting you info. If they don't, then you make sure they give you info. If there's any changes, if they have casualties, if the enemy is doing something different, and then you adjust your orders depending on that, and you keep the informed of if you're doing something different, if you are peeling left or right, or if you're falling back or attacking, whatever. You inform your platoon leader of this. And there you go.
So I was going to ask, what's the difference between that, the SALTA, and a contact report or a salute report?
Salute report is pretty much the same. They have the size, activity, location, and time in common. The difference is that you don't tell what you're going to do in a salute report. And to me, the uniform bit and the equipment bit is a bit useless in most cases. If there is anything particular to note about uniform, that would be
if you're up against those.
Yeah, if you're up against something you didn't expect, then yeah, note that, oh shit, these are Russian tank guards, they're not fucking irregular Pakistani militia. But, holy shit, these guys all carry storm ladders, they're probably intending to attack the town. Then yeah, add that into activity of enemy. There's no reason to have those as two separate points, because it's pretty much, in most cases, useless information. It's just going to be 0-0 and nothing else. So might as well just go as simple as possible, and then just, okay, one times enemy fire team, they're doing this, and they're there, it's going on now, I'm doing this. Doesn't have to take long.
Okay.
On right side, you'll note that I've written up the 4 reports you need to know as a squad leader. You simply can't squad lead without knowing these. It's log stat, very basic. You know this from RTO courses or from playing the game. Log stat is just saying what grid you're in and how you're displaced. Are you in? Are you spread out? Are you in line? Are you tightly knitted? Whatever. So so he knows where you are and how much space you take up. Sit rep. Also, or situation report, also key element. As platoon leaders, you always be able to ask you for sit rep, and you can just say, "I'm in grid da da da. I'm in squad line, fire team wedge. I am nothing is happening at this point. I intend to keep moving. I do not need support." And obviously, your ACE report, which is just which you all should know is ammo, casualties, and equipment, and you just report by you can do, if you do need to do as simple fast ACE report, then you can just go green 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 or green yellow green or whatever. Just give him give the platoon leader a quick sense of how much equipment you have, and then if the platoon sergeant asks you to explain more about, for instance, your casualties or equipment, then you can explain, I have 2 times red, I have 1 times yellow, rest are green, I have expended all my AT4. Then that lets then you can expand on ACE report. But right off the bat, you don't. You can just do a very simple one. Are there any questions on that? Nope, you guys all killers. Nice. Now comes the bit that most of you should be able to fathom, but a lot of squad leaders tend to not really think about this or not really pay attention to all these points. So this is just a quick up order. Where I just wrote down the points that I want to know when I squad lead in real life and in game. and just gonna go run through them real fast. And you just stop me if there's questions. So operational orders is actually just a very simple way of explaining what you want to do and why you have to do it, and that's just giving out situation, what's going on where we are now. And that's usually because both in game and in real life, when you get a platoon together for a mission, they have no fucking clue whatsoever what's going on. So you have to explain to them that what the situation is. Then you have to explain the mission, how they're gonna or the execution, the sustainment, and command and signals. And I actually boiled it down to these 5 sentences. What's going on? What are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to do it? How are we gonna keep doing it? And how are we gonna talk to each other? That's actually just what you want to know in an op order. So an op order can be crazy long. It can take fucking 2 hours to give an op order. I tried that once. Major gave the whole company an op order. But you can also just do it in fucking 5 minutes. It depends completely on the situation and what you even know. So, point 1, situation. That's telling your people what's going on. And what you want to know as a squad leader is the enemy situation. First and foremost, what's the enemy's objective? What's he trying to do? What's his composition and disposition? That means what kind of unit are they, and how are they placed in the terrain? Or and does the platoon leader expect them to place themselves in the terrain anyway? And then their likely course of action based on their objective. They have a likely course of action. You expect them to do something like you expect them to set up battle positions here and here and try to stop you with fire, or you expect them to move along high-speed avenues of approach. For instance, that's a likely course of action. And then you have the most dangerous course of action. What is the most dangerous thing the enemy could do to you based on their composition and disposition? That could be, okay, it's a Russian mechanized platoon. That means it would have a mortar in support. They could fix you with the 25 millimeters, and then zero mortar in on you, while the dismounts move in close within destroyers. It's the most dangerous course of action, but a less likely course of action for them, because they would probably fucking just mount up, fire in your face and drive straight up to you, then dismount just in front of you, and then have a close within destroy. Then you have friendly situation, and that's also something that's very important to know, all the way down to a grunt level. What is is higher intent if you're part of a company? What does the company want to achieve? What does the platoon want to achieve? Or what's the company's mission? What are we trying to do? And what's other platoons trying to do? And you need to know this because it relates to what your platoon is going to do. And when your platoon leader gives his orders, or when you give when you explain shit to your squad, then you explain what the platoon is doing, since that's the higher element. What the others, what the mission is for the platoon, what other elements are doing, and then when you get to your mission, you explain that mission. So that could be platoon is intending on attacking this town along this MSR. It will have 2 and 3 squad covering, and it will have a first squad moving down the road into the town, taking it, and that'll be us. And that's just explaining friendly situation. Finally, attachment and detachment. Huge point in real life because you constantly get those, but in game, well, you might have an attached tank platoon or such. That's not really important to, not necessarily important to your squad. So that could be done pretty quickly. Okay, that's it for situation. Next point is mission, and that's task and purpose of platoon or task and purpose of squad. When you explain your squad what they're supposed to do, you give them the task or purpose of the squad that the platoon leader gave you. And just as the platoon leader gives the task or purpose of the platoon that the company commander gave him. That's a simple point, but you need to know it. What are we actually supposed to be doing, and why are we doing it? Ever you do anything. Then comes execution, and that's the long bit of any briefing. That's how we actually gonna accomplish our mission. and actually do what we're supposed to be doing. And when you get an execution order, you need to know what the commander intends to achieve. What does he want to do? And a lot of squad leaders actually don't know this when a game starts. It's horrible actually, to platoon lead that, and I'm sure some of you actually know that. So whenever you sit as a squad leader, if you're not sure what the platoon commander wants to achieve, then say, what's your actual intent? What are you intending to do? Then comes the concept of operation, and concept of operation is sometimes very simple. I can give you an example here of how you can say a concept of operation. The purpose of this operation is to take the town of Jalliabad. We will accomplish this by one element conducts SBF to suppress in order to facilitate main efforts, such and such and such. That's just explaining how you in general want to achieve this by doing this and that. And then you finalize when you get to it, and you can do your actual recon. But concept of operation is just explaining how this operation is actually going to take place once we get to the AO. Next bit is maneuvering. And that is that's just how are you going to maneuver up there. Are you going to go in trucks and then dismount at some point? Are you going to go in vehicles? What vehicles are you going to bring those vehicles with you? Are you going to hide them? All kinds of crazy shit. You need to be aware of that. How is the platoon leader actually intending to maneuver? And you also see these squad leaders standing around in at mission spawn. Am I supposed to take this truck, or am I supposed to? What's going on? Huge confusion, and you need to know that whenever you get into mission. Yeah. So also, whenever a platoon is given an objective and the platoon leader is giving you his objectives, he should mention some phases. He will always want to have phases of an operation, such as I have a maneuver phase when we move on to target, and I have an assault phase, then I have a reorganized phase. And that's just any operation should have these phases, and there should be a plan for how to achieve each phase and how to pull out of each phase. So while the platoon leader might not tell you exactly how he's gonna fall out of a phase, since it's a game, he should tell you each phase and actually be aware that there are 3 phases here. Then comes fire support, or fires simply, and that's also something you want to be aware of as squad lead. Is can you expect to be able to call on fire support, and can you what's the purpose of the fires? For instance, a platoon leader would want to know and want to tell you, I expect to use my mortars to engage tanks, for instance. Then it won't help you much to say, I have infantry, I need mortar support. No, we're focusing on the tanks. So you want to know the task and purpose of the fire support as well, and know if they can be called on, or they have their own shit to do. Yes, then task to maneuver units. For instance, if you have maneuver units like trucks with assigned personnel, or when you're maneuvering in your maneuver phase, you might get tasks. You want to know those tasks. Obviously, you can ask your platoon leader for them, but if you're not sure exactly how he wants to do it, then make him explain it. And finally, coordinating instructions. Part of that is phases and phase lines, report lines and such. And I have to ask, does anyone here not know what a phase line is?
Nope.
Okay, because that's actually important, and it's a reason it's hard to platoon lead sometimes. A phase line is when you're doing a phase, like you're maneuvering onto an objective, then you have a phase line just before you get within eyes of that objective, and that line is not to be crossed without permission. That's usually the point of it. And that's because that lets the platoon leader know that he has elements in position at the phase line, but they're not crossing it without his say-so. If they get engaged from on the phase line, they might ask for permission to cross it, but if it's not given, then they just stay or fall back. They don't cross over the phase line without permission. And that's a hugely important tool for a platoon leader, because it lets him know what he has in an area. So whenever a platoon leader designates a phase line, you have to make sure as a squad lead where exactly that phase line goes, and what its name is. You will usually give it a name like phase line Alaska, and you just call the platoon leader to request permission to cross Alaska. Okay, you can go, or no, wait for the rest of the platoon to get there, and then he reports, okay, cross Alaska.
Can you ask for a supporting dog sled?
You can try. Usually in Denmark we usually use girls' names. We're going through phase line Juliet to get to ORV Dorothy, and then from there we'll maneuver on to phase line Bethany, for instance.
You're not even gonna call Julia, are you?
No. Going straight through her.
Phase line Daisy sounds more sexy.
But these are coordinated instructions, and it's very important that you are aware of your coordinated instructions, so you don't get so you know exactly what's going on when someone starts talking about Alaska and Julia and Annie and all the other girls.
So we're gonna be bugging the shit out of our platoon leaders.
Yeah.
Alright.
And that's actually important, because a lot of people tend to think the platoon leader is busy, I don't want to bother him. But actually, it's your job to make sure he's fed with information. So you want to, so whenever something changes that's important to him, that might affect the platoon, then you have to report it, and you have to, and you can do it just by sending a sitrep. I'm here. I'm this place like this. I'm just seeing this happening now. I intend to do this about it. And I suspect you would need to send a squad to support me in this. Whenever something happens that's relevant to the platoon, he needs to be told about it. Obviously, don't duplicate information, so if the first squad just reported that there is fucking a T-90 platoon on our right flank, then you don't report it as well. Then that's obvious, it's happening. And then you can make a recommendation like, I can move and support him in his fight against those T-90s. Okay.
I try to use those kind of sit reps to spur platoon leaders into action, or at least in ordering me to do something.
But a very important point for me when I platoon lead is I want squad leaders to take initiative. And a lot of people misinterpret this as doing stuff without being told to. But taking initiative is actually saying to the platoon leader, I can do this, and I would like help in this form. Because that's very useful, because that lets the platoon leader just say yes or no to what you suggest. So if you say, I can assault in this direction, okay, do it. And then he can say, second squad, go ahead and help first squad on his left flank. It makes it easier to be platoon lead, instead of him having to say, okay, so 1-1, you just reported this, I want you to do this. 2-2, 1-1 just reported this, I want you to do this in relation to that. It takes longer than just say, yeah, fucking do it, go, go, go. So that's actually why you're bothering him with all your suggestions, because it lets him know, just go yes, no. Sustainment, also known as service and support. Not a huge point in Arma necessarily. We just played Snakebite yesterday, where sustainment is a huge point that the commander just skipped over pretty much. But sustainment is support concept, namely how we're gonna get ammo, how we're gonna get food, water, how we're gonna get fuel. If we lose a vehicle, how we're gonna replace it. Do we have anything that relates to support that needs to be in there? And that's usually the platoon sergeant's job to brief on sustainment, because he's actually the guy who's gonna make it happen. So unless the platoon leader is busy, or unless if the platoon leader is really busy getting, I want this to happen right now, then usually he will just tell his platoon sergeant to fix support. But he can say, platoon sergeant, I want you to do this, this, and this, and then brief the rest of the sustainment part. Any critical logistics, as we talked about before, must be briefed how, and when we get to this objective, are we going to resupply and how we're going to do it. Especially important for wax. And very important part is casualty plan. Almost no platoon leaders do this when we play, which is horrible, because we usually only have single medics in the platoon. So whenever platoon leader lays out a plan, then ask him to explain how is he going to deal with the casualties he's going to get. And if he answers, I'm going to send your medic out, then you should scream, no, that's not going to work, because if you get 3 squads all taking casualties at the same time, the medic won't be able to do it to prioritize his work. So he should be able to designate a casualty collection point where you can bring your wounded to, simply because it makes the medic more effective. It's very nice that he'll run out and help you out, but that means, for instance, he runs up to first squad has 2 light casualties, so they just need morphine, and then he runs off to second squad, they had a broken leg that took some time, then he gets to third squad and 2 guys died in the meantime because they were bleeding out. So that's why you want to collect the wounded in a CCP, and you want to make sure your platoon leader knows this. So if he spreads you out, so a CCP won't be a viable option, then you inform him that, wait, you're going to have people die because of this, because you won't be able to collect the casualties, and you need to inform him. Yeah, that's it. So that's a point you want to think about whenever you play as a squad lead. You want to think about, how am I going to get my casualties fixed, because that the solution with sitting down, I need a medic, I have 2 guys that can't walk, I can't go anywhere, that's basically just gonna fuck you up in the end.
The rest will turn up.
Yeah, exactly, because you end up with a squad who can't do anything because they got separated.
Well, in terms of Arma, wouldn't it have a lot to do with the mission as well? I mean, let's face it, a lot of these missions don't come with things like stretchers or the ability to create a
Can you stabilize your wounded? You have one of your guys carry them back.
Yeah. Just like in real life, what you do is you establish fire superiority. Once that's done, you while that's going on, the wounded guys help themselves as much as possible. They banish themselves, all that noise, and then when they can't help themselves more, and you have achieved fire superiority, then you assign a battle body to drag him back into cover and help him out with the rest. And then in real life, you'd go on with the medevac, then get him to a CCP, and then a chopper would land near the CCP and load up the wounded. But in Arma, you usually stop by the second step, because okay, now he's back in cover. We've given him morphine and epi, and we've given him a med kit. He can go again. But sometimes you have to will somebody have to carry them to the CCP, get morphine, epi, and first aid, and then they can go off to the fight again. Okay. Final point: command signals. A point, first off, that's always given as the first point in the Danish brief. Where's the commander gonna be? And it's okay for him to say, I'm gonna be moving between the units, but 90% of the time he won't be moving up and down, up and down, up and down. He will be with one unit, and usually somewhere, yeah, but he will usually be somewhere in the middle where he can see shit, and he needs to tell people where he's gonna be. And there's 2 reasons for this. One is so they can so you know where to look for him if you need to talk to him about something. Also because if you don't tell second squad lead that you're walking behind him, then he won't know to look for you for the platoon lead. If the platoon lead goes ahead and dies, then the second squad lead won't even notice the platoon leader is dead, because he didn't know he was there. So you want to make your presence known to the squad you're with, so they can report on that, oh shit, platoon leader is dead, platoon sergeant needs to take over. And same for platoon sergeant, you need to tell people where he is, so they can say, fuck, platoon sergeant's down, first squadron's in command, and so on. Because as soon as you don't know the commander's position, you improve the risk of your succession of command fucking up, essentially ruining your entire mission.
I've never had someone do that as a platoon lead, tell me where they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget it a lot of times too, but it's actually very important to say, I'm gonna be here, Because first off, then the elements know, shit, platoon leader's gone, where the fuck is he? And ask him, hey, where are you right now? Or, so, and also, yeah, there's a shit ton of reasons why it's a good idea to just tell your platoon where you are. And if you don't know where he is, then it's a good idea to ask him, where the fuck are you right now? And then a point people never miss, it's usually the point people go straight to, is nets and call signs. Which is pretty horrible, because that shouldn't be too important, because you know what squad's what and such. But usually people go straight to nets and call signs and saying, hey, we're gonna be Titan, and you're gonna be Saber, and you're gonna be Clown Face and shit like that. But it's actually a point where you wanna that's not the first point. That should be one of the later points, because it's depending on your entire plan beforehand. How are you gonna execute it? Because if you then you realize as you make your execution, shit, I'm gonna have to make 2 nets, for instance. Finally, passwords, not always Arma applicable, but for TVTs, fucking do it, man. Password is fucking simple. You can just assign a password like Sierra Lima, meaning that whenever someone calls out Sierra Sierra, you respond with Lima Lima. And that's, for instance, if you're running around in the dark, you can't really tell if it's a Russian or a American you're standing in front of, then you can just point at him, go Sierra Sierra, and then if he responds Lima, okay, go ahead. If he didn't respond Lima, fucking shoot him in the face. Very few people do this, but it's actually awesome acid. Any questions on the operational orders?
Yeah.
Go.
Sustainment. Is it possible to get jibs and everything respawned? Is that sustainment?
Yeah, that's a point in sustainment. Also, sustainments also involve reinforcements. If we're going to be reinforced, how we're going to do it.
Okay, thanks.
Good point. Yeah, that's something you want to brief as well. If you expect jibs, how are you going to get them, or respawns, how are you going to get them back in the fight? So you don't end up with a whack where you constantly have 20 people running back to their squad trying to get back in the fight without knowing what's going on. Sadly, you can't make markers for jibs in game, because if you could just make a marker called jibs assemble here, and then have the platoon sergeant check that area regularly and be able to
have lots of respawn missions.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Question about execution maneuver. The maneuver phase, is that just your march order, up to the ORB, or does that cover everything?
That depends on how complex your maneuver is. If it's just march to the ORB, then it's just a simple marching order, like I tried to do in my platoon leaders course earlier. I tried to call it Simifos Rock, but it's starting point, ingress point, target, egress point, all that crazy shit. Just want to brief that if you're doing a marching order. I'm trying looking up right now.
I was going to say, in addition to that, would maneuver node count everything up to your assault phase?
Yeah. But also in your assault phase, you might need to have a maneuver plan going.
Because you said passwords. Another thing you might want to add is how to deal with when the enemy compromises your nets, like go channel 5 or
yeah,
it's config.
Yeah.
People knowing how to use the radios.
Yeah, but you can say in the briefing like, hey, when enemy is on our net, go 10 channels up or something. On a
it's called compromise contingencies, and a good point is, especially in TVT, assign a compromise contingency, like you say, contingency 1. If if that's called on the net, everyone knows the contingency 1 means go to channel 30, for instance.
The only downside to that, I should say, is that if they have your radio, changing channels not going to help. You need to change frequency.
Yeah, if you have a fucking 100 channels to go between,
True.
Then you agree that a compromise contingency is fucking channel 68, then you should be fine. You can also assign frequencies that helps you even more, but But the idea is you want one or two compromise contingencies. So, okay, first off, they fucking found out frequency. Okay, contingency 1, okay, going to this channel. Contingency 2, going to this channel. The problem with this is I have never seen it work in Arma, ever.
I had it happen once and it worked.
I've seen it a few times. I don't think everyone's actually, some...
As I said, I personally prefer the change your radio frequency, and that worked once.
Yeah, there's always one guy who doesn't make it, but I've seen it work.
God hand, Jack. Gross.
Hey, Jack. Yeah, I seen Jack. Yeah, we're actually done very much before time, so we can go ahead and go into the server and do some prac if you guys want to.
Cool.
So Jack, if you can be our awesome up for or something.
Oh, have you just finished your view?
Yeah.
I have a more
yeah, I can do that. I can deal. I have
a more platoon-oriented question if you can answer that.
Yeah.
Can you go over like the PSG? Pretty much how do you use them?
Okay, yeah, that's a huge point. I actually considered doing a PSG course at one point. PSG is actually the platoon leader's right hand, so to speak. He does whatever the platoon leader can deal with. So mostly that's a non-tactical nature, like rations, water, ammo, casualties, yeah, shit like that. But when you get tactical and you have a lot of shit happening, the platoon leader might have to assign the platoon sergeant to deal with being the base of fire element, coordinating that. Since there are going to be more squads, he can be coordinating that, or he can assign him to any special sort of task. When me and Pitobor play and I'm his platoon sergeant, I usually spend my time taking care of security, which is also a point a platoon leader will want to put someone in charge of security, make sure someone is actually checking if all the squads are watching different directions, so you don't have all squads watching the exact same point. So I often spend my time as platoon sergeant running around between the squads saying, you guys fucking do this, you guys do this, you guys do this, and just being the asshole of the entire platoon, which is his job.
You're basically
already doing it.
You're basically the whip.
Yeah.
In a realistic sense, there's a phrase. I don't know whether it won't work too well for American style teaching, but in a British sense, the saying is section commanders work for the platoon commander. Section 2 ICs work for the platoon sergeant. So because Section 2 ICs deal with, ammo and all that good shit and water and shit on a section level, the platoon sergeant deals with it on a platoon level. So they work for him while the platoon commander and section commanders are working on orders and plans of attack and shit like that.
Yep.
Basically between the platoon sergeant and the Section 2 ICs, you should be the ones whipping the rest of the guys. The 2 ICs most definitely.
Yeah.
It's quite very good to have good fire teammates.
So the sergeant is the secretary of the platoon leader.
You go up to a real life platoon sergeant and say that and it won't end too well.
I could do it.
As he just said, he is the whip, and they get picked for that their ability to be nitpicky and yell loudly at people for fucking up and NJP them in funny ways.
That's why I like having Jake as my platoon sergeant.
Or me.
I've never had you as my BSG, so.
I'm sure someone in this channel has.
I have.
Okay, guys, to move on. We're way ahead of schedule because I expected a lot more questions, and I'm probably going to get them pretty soon. But if you guys want, then go boot up your Arma, and then go into I'll go into one of the training servers and take admin of that, and then we'll try to do a practical application while we'll try the tactical part.